My name is Justin Davey. I work in the technical support department of Wallace Perimeter Security. Today we are going to be learning about installing sensing edges on bifolding gates. Sensing edges are now a required part of bifolding gate installation per UL 325 regulation. This ensures that pedestrians are safe around our bifolding gates. On each side of the bifolding gate there are two horizontal edges covering the open direction of travel and one vertical edge covering the closed direction of travel. This ensures that when the gate is both opening and closing, pedestrians are safe. Today we are going to show you how to install them. This video is intended to be an addendum to our instruction manual. You can find it on our website, wallaceperimetersecurity.com. It will consist of 3 parts: 1, installation, 2, wiring, and 3, programming. All right, so all bifolding gates, FoldSmart, PDXT-C and PDTT, all have the same sensing edge setup. So we have 2 horizontal edges, one here, which covers the open direction of travel in case anybody gets stuck in between panels when gate is opening. We have one horizontal edge here, which covers the open direction of travel in case anybody's in between this panel and a curb or a wall. And we have one vertical edge right here, and this is to cover the closed direction of travel. So when the gate is actually closing, if somebody's in between, it will hit them and stop the gate. So all gates are exactly the same in terms of our bifolding setup. If it's a one-sided gate, we have 3. If it's a 2-sided gate, we have 6, and they all work the same. So if an edge hits somebody in the open direction of travel, it'll stop the gate. It can also be programmed to stop and reverse for 2 seconds toward the closed direction. If a vertical edge hits somebody, it'll stop the gate. In most cases, right from factory, it will also reverse to open for 2 seconds. But there's some programming options to change how they respond. The edge itself is just a rubber, it's a piece of rubber essentially, but it has 2 conductors inside of it. When you press the edge, those conductors touch each other, create a short circuit. There's a resistor in the top here that looks for that and sends a signal back to the gate controller that will then make the gate respond in a safe way, stop and reverse. When unpacking your bifolding gate, you'll receive a box with all of your sensing edge parts. There will be hinges, there will be screws, there will be the edges themselves and channel. The first thing that you're going to do with the edges is mount the channels themselves. It is just a C-channel, aluminum C-channel. There will be provided tech screws to attach it to the panel. Depending on the length of your panel, you can use 2 to 3 tech screws to attach it. And essentially you're just tech screwing right to the panel itself. Once you've attached the channel, you will have a pre-made hole that will allow the wire to go inside the panel itself. You'll slide the edge in. And you'll fish your cable through the provided hole into the panel. Once the cable itself is fished in, you'll be able to attach some pass-through hinges. We'll have hinges in between panels that allow the wire to actually pass through to the next panel. And we'll have some column to panel pass-through hinges that will allow the wires to pass through to this column. These hinges themselves will have pre-made holes when you receive the gates to attach them to. So you just have to use the provided hinges and fasten them to the panels with the provided fasteners. For attaching the pass-through hinges, you'll need a 3/8 nut driver and an impact drill. For attaching the sensing edge channel, you'll need a 5/16 nut driver and impact drill. All right, once the wiring has been pulled through the pass-through hinges into the columns and then into the respective controller on your gate, you'll end up having to wire all of your edges to the MIM-62 module. It looks something like this. That's the front, that's the back. One notable about the MIM-62. On the PDXT-C and PDTT gate models, you'll find it on the inside of the column termination box, located in the lower access door of the primary column. So in both gates, both your PDXT-C, PDTT, and FoldSmart, you will have to remove the module from its mounted location to wire the edges, but they all wire exactly the same. Every single model works exactly the same. So each edge is going to go to its own input, and on the MIM62 there's 6 inputs. So if you have, you know, a half gate with 2 panels, 1 column, you're going to use 3. If you have a full bifold gate with 4 panels, 2 columns, then you'll use all 6 of the inputs. At the very top here, you have your outputs and power for the module. It'll be powered from either the full smart board or the speed gate board, depending on which model of gate you have. And these outputs will go back to the controllers to connect, and that's how the gate knows to respond when an edge is activated. So in every case, when you attach your edge on the left-hand side of the module, you're always going to attach them in the same location. So you're going to have your brown wire at the very top, and you're going to have your blue wire second from the top. It's always going to be exactly the same. One notable thing about this module is that you have to have an edge connected to input 1 and input 2. If you don't, the module won't work. So it's very important that there's always something connected to both of those two. Flipping it around, the orientation does change a bit because your blocks are opposite. So your edges are always going to be blue wire third from the top and brown wire at the very bottom. And that goes for all 4 of these inputs. So that it's always the same. It doesn't matter what bifolding gauge that you use, the wiring is going to be exactly the same for that. On the back of the module, you'll see we have a few things. We have some dip switches for outputs. We have some dip switches for how your input ties to output. So you can control if, say, input 3 ties to output A or output B. And that's important because those go back to inputs on the gate that will determine if the gate stops when it's opening or closing. And then finally, you have a learn button here, and that's what you use to program the edges once they're all connected. So from factory, these 2 dip switches are always set to R. It just means relay. It won't work on any of the gates if either dip switch is set to P, so they both have to be set to R. On the dip switches down here, typically on both models, they can all be left to output B, unless the configuration is changing on site from what we would typically provide from factory. So most of the time, you don't have to change anything here, but you might have to, at least on these ones. Once all of your edges are connected, you still have to program this module to accept them. So when you first connect them, all of these lights will blink, or at least all of the lights that have an edge connected. There's little red LEDs here that will blink. When you see them blinking, you just press this button 1 time, the learn button, and then when you flip this back over, they won't be blinking. But what you will notice is when you activate an edge, the input that it's connected to will have a red light as long as you press it in. So it's detecting the short circuit that we talked about earlier, and all 3 should do it. So no matter how many edges you have, you'll want to check to make sure that they all respond in that way. If you have a flashing light still, that means there's some issue with your wiring or with your edge that you just installed. So you need to check your wiring, make sure the connections on the edges are good, and then resolve that before you move on. So based on these dip switches, once you've done that, either output A or output B will trigger from here, and output A generally will go to your closed direction input, and output B will generally go to your open direction input. So you'll want to test those to make sure the edges are responding in the way that you expect. So your 2 horizontal edges should only, you should only see a response from the gates when you press them when the gate's opening. Then your 1 vertical edge should only respond when the gate is closing. So it's important to pay attention when you're connecting and to test all of those things to make sure that they work correctly and they're safe. And once you've completed this, then you need to go to the circuit board and program all of the inputs. If you've connected everything, you've pressed the learn button, and you have a blinking red LED like this, then there's going to be a problem with the wiring or with the edge connections that you'll want to resolve, or you'll need to resolve before the gate will work. So it will blink like this. The first thing that you want to check is that the wiring is in the right orientation. So on this one here, because it's on the left-hand side, that brown wire has to be top, blue second from top. If it's not in that orientation, then you'll get a blinking red light. So that would be the solution for that. The next thing that you'll want to check is this plug at the bottom. So this wire actually plugs in right at the bottom of the edge. These are glued from factory, so it shouldn't come out. But you can see here there's a little plug I don't want to pull it all the way out, it's going to be really tough to get back in. But if it was sitting like this, for instance, because of it got bumped during install or whatever the case may be, it's not going to actually connect back to here. So you want to make sure that this is plugged in all the way, kind of like that. Now, the last thing that you want to check, if that doesn't resolve the issue, is this connection right at the top. This is a resistor, and it's part of how it determines if there's a short when it's pressed. So this controller is actually looking for this resistor. So if this isn't plugged in because it got bumped or knocked out or it's loose, same thing, you'll have a blinking red light. So you just want to make sure that this is pressed in the orientation that you see here. That would really be it. It's going to be one of those three things. So if you do have the red light in one of those three things, you'll have your solution. So our last sensing edge step is to program the circuit board to accept the sensing edges. On a Fold Smart, this is done from within this gray cabinet. On a PDXT-C or PDTT, you will not have to complete this step. So as mentioned, if you have a PDXT-C or PDTT, you do not have to program a circuit board. It's all done in the shop here before the gate ships. On a Fold Smart, you do have to program the circuit board. Sensor 1 will typically be for your photo cells on most sites. Sensor 2 will connect your output A on the MIM62 for closed direction, and sensor 3 will connect to output B on the MIM62 for open direction. Once you've connected your wires, you have to program the circuit board like this. First, you hit the menu button 2 times. That'll get you into the user menu. Once you're in the user menu, you press open and reset together. That'll get you into the installer menu. Then you use the close button to navigate to sensor 2 or S2. Right now it's not used. To set it to close direction, you hit the stop button 1 time, the screen will flash, and then you press the close button until you see edge close. And essentially what that means is when that vertical edge is pressed, when the gate is closing, the gate will stop. It'll do nothing when the gate is opening. So you press stop again to set it. You'll see the screen isn't flashing anymore, and now sensor 2 is set. If you hit close one more time, that'll take you to sensor 3. It's not used right now, but we're gonna set that to open direction or open edge. So same thing, you just press your stop select button 1 time. Use your close button to change it to edge open, and your stop select button again to set it. And now your 2 horizontal edges are activated, and they'll stop the gate when the gate is moving in the open direction if activated. To get out of programming, you just hit the menu button 1 time, and now you're ready to run the gate. Once you're out of programming, if you want to make sure that everything is working, you can press the open or close buttons. There you go. And that concludes our Sensing Edge video. Thank you for watching. For additional information, you can access our chatbot at wallaceperimetersecurity.com. You can also access our support portal at the same website address, or call our tech support line at 1-866-300-1110.